Hey everybody, this is Time Travel Beard, and this is September's State of the Shader video for the Icarus shaders. I'm going to go through clips on this one and just kind of talk over them and then go over the changelog and stuff like that. Before we get into the video, I want to take a quick moment here just to comment on auto exposure and tone mapping. For the most of this video, the color is going to be kind of blown out because I hadn't adjusted this. But you see here like a quick adjustment I made that I think works better to still maintain a feeling of a lot of brightness without washing out or blowing out the image. So things should be better by default than they will be for most of this video. But still, let me know what you guys think. And I also want to take this moment to say thank you to my supporters on Patreon and YouTube. If you guys want to support the projects, you can do memberships over there or like little one-time tips or whatever. And special thanks, especially to YouTube member VIP Nicholas Rodriguez. See the little icon here. If you guys happen to want to join on the YouTube, they've got this little thing. It's kind of fun, kind of goofy, where you can have icons that change depending on the length of your membership. So there's got these little beards and mustaches next to your name that will grow as you are a member for longer. Aside from that, YouTube doesn't have much difference from Patreon, except getting a little bit of early access to some videos. To also kind of wrap this video up super quick for anyone who wants to just watch very quickly, the newest stuff in the menus is camera color effects, bloom and lens flares. You turn on the star-shaped ones here. By default, they are off. And this is where you turn the lens flares on and off and choose your bloom style. And this here, the manual exposure range, is the main way you would adjust how blown out or washed out the image is. And then other than that, you could get further into stuff with all the tone mapping options and everything here, which have fun. there's a bunch to it, but okay, let's get to the rest of the video. A big focus of this month was bloom and lens flares. The bloom was very bad. Here it is kind of overdone on this one. This opening video, I'll show how it's all adjustable and the final settings I made after recording this. But this is like a sunrise test. Basically, the bloom before was just map based and it was really crap. And now this has the default like a Caustic style bloom, or it's like a full screen bloom that can be very gentle on the edges. But I do want to add more control to it. And I added those little star-shaped flares, and I added lens flares, and all of it can be turned off and adjusted. And I'm going to skip around videos to kind of show you different things about what changed. Most of it was related to this. So see, we get these little star-shaped. Those are dynamic, so they don't show up everywhere. They just show up where there's like a good lighting difference. One thing I still want to adjust is the kind of auto exposure and the tone mapping, where the picture gets kind of blown out. I like it to get very close to that for that sense of just oomph. And I think with the auto exposure, you should have it kind of get there. And you could adjust all that to have it not do that now. I'll show that too. But I'm kind of struggling with getting the tone mapping and the balance. You can see here the sky mostly looks good, but in the direction of the sun, it's still really kind of blown out on the defaults. We're getting those nice little star-shaped flares there when those are on. Those are off by default because I don't feel like I've got them perfect yet. Let's see. Oh, see, I really like that when reflections of like those little star shape. I really, really like that. Let's look at another video. I'm trying to make this fast. So here's another little showcase of that with the lava reflections and the light reflection and the gems. Get those nice little sparkles and get those little star shapes on them. I really, really like that. I want to adjust them a little more, but I think it's a really cool feature. Lava sometimes is really good with it. Let's look at the changelog really quick, and then I'll go over some of the other stuff. Like I said, mainly this month was bloom. There's a menu cleanup. I'll put this in the Patreon too, just so it's there. I'm gonna turn this off. This is not the default settings. This is one of my experiments with tone mapping. So here you can see the sky is not very blown out. If I go back, I'll include this config, I guess. If I go back to regular, the sky is kind of blown out in the direction of the sun, I see it still adjusts, but it's, I don't know, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. And the colors are generally more vibrant. Um, I've just got to readjust this stuff. Outdoors is a little bit too bright right now with the new bloom, I think. But I feel like, so it's kind of tricky to adjust both at the same time and try to get everything to work right for everything. There's a zombie in here somewhere too. So in our menu here, these all have different colors on them to kind of give a better idea of the range. The worst ones are now purple, and I'm making sure to use yellow, orange, and the 2 shades of green. Give more of an idea. And instead of stuff that gets over 60 being green, I put those as yellow because I know for most people don't have a 4090 and it's not doing that well. Help and info. This now has some color coding to help out. There's this note here. Goes over the included resource packs a little more. And I updated this page to actually have everything that changes in the profiles. So as you switch one, you can then look and see, oh, these are the things that changed because they turned off. As for the new bloom and stuff, it's in camera, color, and effects. Bloom and lens flares. Our main selector is here. You can choose which style you've got. This one is recommended. That one is way too heavy. That's this. That one's also not recommended. And then this one is not recommended. This is what I did on the cinematic video, but this one is much gentler. The manual exposure range is here. I'll go outside to show that in a second. So here is the lens flares. You can turn them on or off. You can also turn off the secondary parts. This is where you turn on the star-shaped flares. It'd be right there. And then you could adjust the strength of all of these things. You choose whether or not to use HDR for the flares. And for the star-shaped flares, you could do stuff like change how many points on the star and different stuff about them. So they're configurable, pretty configurable. So you could adjust all this. You could just turn them off if you want. And then you've still got the new bloom, but without the lens flares. The lens flares add a lot of the effect of it. Like I said, the little star parts aren't on by default. They're mostly to do stuff like when you're peeking out from the dark into the brightness is where I want those to work, and just for things that are really bright. So those would be here, bloom flares, starship flares on. And then we should get those peeking through the leaves. There we go. And in moments of there's just something bright. Alright, so blooms and lens flares. I think I went over all of that. As far as where the main adjuster of brightness is in the bloom and lens for this exposure range, if you put this up to like 2, it's probably going to destroy all of the overblown in the sky. You see there, it's like it balances it out. So somewhere between 1 and 2 is probably what that needs to have. And I just don't have that balanced yet. I understand not everyone's going to like those star-shaped flares, and that's why they're off until I get them better, or people say that's definitely the thing to keep on. I also added a Floodfill Preset. Fixed the ambient skylight that was missing on Classic Low, and Grass Test Low. Rename that to very low, blah, blah, blah. And I defaulted textures and reflections to be on. Let's look at this Floodfill preset. Actually, these are either all Floodfill or that new Classic very low. I'm not sure which. But you can still do all the flares. It still gets a really good look. This is the regular default, and then this is the Floodfill preset. So you see it doesn't get quite as much of the dynamic brightness right on the stuff. But it still does the colored lighting, and it still has some directionality in it. It's a little bit darker. I tried to kind of adjust it some. These are some different ones. That's Floodfill. I think that's the classic, the old classic one, which doesn't have colored lighting data. And that's default. So it's trying to be there. So this is the new Floodfill preset. You see it still gets pretty good directional lighting and everything. This is the new Floodfill preset. It still has the handheld torch and everything. This is it as well. I think it does a pretty good job, and it runs faster than any of the other stuff. The path tracing distance can be lowered even lower to go faster. Quick performance tracing steps can be turned lower. And setting it to 0 will turn any ray tracing preset into using flood filling instead of path tracing. The default used to be 30, now we can go down to 20 or 10. It might still look like you're doing a lot of path tracing, even though it's not going very far. If it's to 0, it just does purely flood fill. So that's kind of a nice little booster. Like if you did render low and put it to 20 instead of 30, you'll get more frames. Put it to 10, I don't know if it'll be good. I also defaulted the textures to be on in reflections, at least for the color, not the normals. I only saw like 1 FPS change on that, and it's the one change I would always make to the default preset. So now it's just on there. Known issues. I'm going to look over a video of some path tracing map tests, but also just here, bloom style 0 is broken. It's a bit bright outside, and I'm trying to rebalance that. Water and stained glass are horrible. I'm going to show that as well. And then we'll get into what's next, which is a list of stuff. The Floodfill preset I can make twice as fast by basing it off of Caustic low instead of render low. The water reflections were broken, so that doesn't exist right now. Here's a test of HDR. I'm trying to do some different HDR stuff. So this is comparing the default preset with a render preset that has everything 10 times brighter, but then throws it through tone mapping. So here's the default. Here's an HDR test. Default HDR test. Here's the HDR test. There's the default. Pretty much the one that's brighter is testing HDR. They're brighter, but they're less saturated, like less colorful. So here's a test of it. It's got more dynamic. Well, it's playing with it. The shadows are darker, but the colors are more muted. Let me know what you guys think. Like this is with the HDR test. Here it is. Here it is. Here's the default right now, where I said I'm trying to rebalance the bloom and the auto exposure. So this is what it looks like right now. This is what I might make it look like. I don't know. I probably need somewhere in between the two. So this is now, and this is with the HDR test. HDR test now. Like I said, it's also doing hybrid versus render in that. So there's a bit of a difference. But part of the HDR test, by making the lights brighter, would make them more dramatic. So here is the default, and then here's the HDR test. It makes the default look kind of cartoony. But like I said, that's also going from hybrid to render, but then also boosting all the lighting and doing the tone mapping. So I'm not fully sure about this yet, what I want to do. It also, I turned the denoising off here. One of the other things I want to do is make the denoising be HDR. It is not. Here's with the denoiser on, here's with off. You see there's more vibrance, just like here, there's more vibrance. Because we lose a lot of the HDR data. Here's denoiser, here's not denoised. Because it does not run at 16 bits per channel. It's kind of, I'm trying to do some stuff to save performance on it. And I'm going to want to put an option this month to be able to do that, because that extra boost, when properly done, not only would it make certain things brighter, but it'll make reflections look better. It'll make all the lighting look better. And it's just something I haven't gotten to yet. Because first I wanted to get it working, and then I did some other stuff. So let's look at the path tracing test. This was a map. I'll go through clips, then I'll go through video. It's a map that's available online. And I went through and just tested some things. This area I kind of really liked. Like you get the sunlight bouncing off the gold, and you get all the bounce light over here. It did a really good job on some of it. I really liked this area. Just to kind of see, and I think I ended up putting settings really high to kind of test how it would look. And so I'm going to turn the volume here off and just kind of skim through it. I put the settings extremely high just to kind of see how it would do. So the frame rate is trash, but I really, really liked the lighting in this movie room. And I can update this this profile as well. It's I think I'm pretty sure I saved it. But I wanted to see how it would do with all the new flares and everything, and with the lighting put up high in an actual map made to test out path tracing. Here's a late Ultimate RTX. That's what it was called. There's like a bunch of architecture areas. Generally, I was pleased with it. Some of the stuff that really sucked was stuff like slabs and stained glass. I'm really not happy with the way stained glass works. Let's see. With the water caustics that bounce, where light bounces off of water, I want to change the texture on those. The default texture is one that at least shows up at low FPS. But there's ones I've got that are more detailed. But I need to either they get lost with the accumulation right now, or I need to do something different in the denoising to maintain that they can quickly change. So that when I do the denoising, I wanted to change that as well. Here's an example of the stained glass being broken. There's two things it's doing wrong, or a lot of things it's doing wrong. One of them is that it just lights up way too much when it's lit, and when it's not lit, it's often black. It also is not registering as being colored. I don't know if that's a problem with my thing to detecting the Pathtracing textures, or if it's just doing that in general with everything. Um, I know in the just colored lighting is where I ported over the voxelizing code for color detection from, and then I made it better in just colored lighting and haven't moved all those changes over to here. You see again with this caustic texture that I'm using is not the best, and when it's still, it was made for motion that registers at low FPS. But I need to, or want to, and need to port over all the fixes and stuff from the just colored lighting shader, especially in regards to stained glass and everything, because I know that the code in here is trying to change light that path traces through glass. It just doesn't register that it's got color right now. And it also, the way that glass renders to the screen is very bad. And that extends to the way that the water surface renders. And the problems are most obvious in dark places. So here's like a test of different things. Here's like a lens flare test room. Some of it's really cool. Like I said, I'll put this whole video up. If I have time, I'll put chapters to it. Golden metal and everything, trying to be really shiny. I know I do a lot of cool light bouncing off of stuff, so some of the stuff in that room is probably really good. This area was supposed to test normal maps. I really like the way the stuff looks in it. I think the shader does a very good job with PBR textures. So this was a fun area to explore. I kind of see how it does. So stained glass. The slime also shows the problem the stained glass has. The problems. It just has a lot of problems. Oh, this is fun. This is a mirror room. I'll show this real quick. I had not tested something like this. So here it is with me setting the iron to be mirrors. But first this is set to just the initial look of it, but then the reflections still have the texture. And then here I'm going to switch to them being perfect mirrors. Perfect mirrors. And this is kind of fun. You see at the default settings, or at the settings it says how many recursions it gets. And then I pump it up to do like 1,000. And in this room, pretty much that means everything becomes light. Like it always ends up hitting that light eventually, except for I guess in that crack right there. Which is kind of cool. But when I go in one of these other rooms, you'll see that the other mirror room, it doesn't quite do that. It struggles to get out of this room though, because of the that's a lot of computation to do that many light bounces. The fact that I could move out of the room at all is kind of interesting. Here in this other one, it gets more interesting pattern because the way the room is set up just works differently. That's kind of fun. I think I turn it down here. Here's that room without making the textures all be perfect mirrors because the iron is rough. Porosity test area. I wasn't really pleased with this because the time is frozen for this test map, so the ripples don't move because they're based on the world time, not the frame time. Um, different rooms. This one was kind of cool. I liked because you get all the purple light, even the skylight here, the ambient light bouncing off of the floor is what gives you the lighting on this wall. So it has that mostly has that purplish hint, which I think is really cool. Um, Here's another example of stained glass having a bad time. Um, if I can find that again. Um, the soft shadows calculate for opaque things, but it's not calculating soft shadows for colored shadows. So that's making a lot of errors in that. That needs to be fixed. That's not acceptable. So that's another way that the stained glass is not good. Light balancing tests and everything. Like I said, I'll upload this. Here's those Cornell boxes. I was gonna stop with the slabs, but I missed them. Um, and here's this area with that's dedicated to bounce light. There's both a quartz and a sandstone variant, which give different looks. I think it's pretty cool. It's a really good showcase of light bouncing around. And there's those glints. I had the perfect glints turned on this setting as well. I usually have them off. Um, let's see what else we got here. Those with the pink skylight, liminal hallways, broken stained glass. Some of these rooms are cool. Like this one, the floor on this wall are colored, and then on this wall is all just the bounce light. It's such a good showcase of global illumination. And that's probably that video. Um, so what else is next? I want to do more control of the bloom. I want to fix water and glass. You saw where it's broken. Here's some more clips of it being broken. I want to fix that so it doesn't look black like that. Um, this side by side is showing it just dithered instead, so it doesn't have the watercolor absorption that it should have, but it shows that the lighting is getting lost going through it. I want to fix the 3D texture material transitions. That won the poll after bloom. I've got the black hole port, the waterworks shader. I want to add those and also make it so that the the beach waves would work without physics mod. Um, I also want to do stuff where clouds move around mountains and stuff, and those would be very similar for me to code. There's lighting improvements I want to make. I can make the Floodfill preset faster. People like that. Is what I'm saying. I need to port over the just code lighting stuff that fixes a lot of the issues that were in the voxelizing, where it captures data about the world and it misses the color of glass and stuff sometimes. Need to adjust the exposure and tone mapping. And I want to have more control over the way some of this stuff works. So that's this month's video. Um, that's where the shader is right now. It's not always blown out with the sunrise. Like I said, there's changes to make and things to fix about it. But I think the bloom is definitely better than it was. And if you feel like any of it's overpowered, you can just turn off all of it or change the strength of it. Each bloom has its own menu where you can adjust the strength and do some other things about it. And then the lens flares, which are part of what's overpowering sometimes, can all be turned off. or adjusted. I'll probably do a poll at some point to see if they should even be on by default or off by default. Um, but I'm excited. I feel like this added a good deal of stuff. I also added those cinematic bars. I didn't show those in this video. They are in the testing menu still. I can add more about them, but the way they work right now, the lens flares still go over them. I thought that was actually kind of cool, but I will of course make that an option to have it not do that as well. Um, and hope everyone's having a good week and a good month. And I'm gonna keep working on this and try to make it better and see what we get to next. Like I was showing, that list is pretty long. Of like my to-do list and what I want to do next. There's quite a bit on it, so we'll see what I get to. I'll probably do another poll to see what everybody wants me to focus on. My next gameplay video will be with an older version because I didn't use this one yet. I was still using the old one when I recorded it. I didn't upload it yet. This might be the main thing you want to fix until I figure out what the good defaults are for everything with the new bloom and everything. But I'm going to keep at it. There's a lot I want to do, and we're going to get there. It's just things take time. Have a good week, and I'll talk to everybody soon.